Big drama in the sports card world is unfolding. European football back. American football is almost back. And we're back! We're back! It's two-way takes, baby! What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 7 of Two-Way Takes, and a lot has happened. We got a lot to talk about, and you're all going to listen to it. Man, some big news in the hobby world, in the sports card hobby world. Obviously, this is going to be a very sports card-centric episode here for our variety show. Some huge news involving PWCC and eBay. PWCC is one of the largest consigners on the eBay platform. Also, we had some huge breaking news earlier today about the multi-billion-dollar organization Fanatics making a play in the card market against Topps, against Panini to broker some deals, securing licensing with the MLB, NFLPA, and the NBA Players Association. So, a lot to unpackage here, along with some previews of the upcoming football season. Going to touch a little bit on the now kicked off European soccer seasons, the major domestic leagues out there, and then a little other razzle dazzle that we got towards the end of the show. So, big episode. Producer Mitch, we had a week off. How you feeling, buddy?
Oh, Mike was off right there.
Oh, God,
Feeling
Mike
good
was
though.
off.
Feeling
All
good.
right.
Feeling excited to read these developments here. It's crazy.
I know, it's pretty wild. We're going to kick things off today with the PWCC and eBay drama. eBay has suspended PWCC seemingly indefinitely. Again, one of its largest consigners. That was the big story about 48 hours ago. So eBay put out a little press release of sorts. Mitch, you have the press release from eBay you want to run through really quick?
I do. Should I do the whole thing, you think?
Yeah,
or?
hit him with the whole thing. Let's give some people some context here.
Absolutely. All right. So it says here, eBay levied a strong accusation and took action against one of its largest sellers in the trading card category on Tuesday. In a message sent to customers who've done business with the PWCC marketplace, eBay indicated it had restricted PWCC's selling privileges and listings. At issue, according to the statement from eBay, is shill bidding.
So I think it's important to make note for anybody who may not have heard the term shill bidding before. Basically, shill bidding is when you're getting someone to pump up and inflate the price on a certain item. In this case, it would be sports cards for your own sale. So, for instance, I list a card. I tell producer Mitch, hey, producer Mitch, go on your eBay account, run my card up to $500, $600, whatever it is. That way we can kind of like boost the perceived value of the card.
Oh, got it. So it's like a sale boosting technique.
That's all it is. It's all it is. And to be fair, and this is not to, provide any sort of cover for PWCC, but this type of thing, shill bidding has been going on in the hobby and on eBay in general, not even just in the sports card hobby, but it has been going on eBay and auction sites for the longest time. It's been a rampant issue forever. I mean, obviously, we're going to focus on the hobby end of it. It happens outside of just PWCC, outside of, major consigners. It happens at Probstein. You know what I mean? Like the big consigners on eBay, they're not innocent at all of this. And I'm sure there's been a lot of turning a blind eye to this sort of situation for sure. But that is not to say they can't be held accountable. So one of the big things that if you go through the majority of the press release that they mention is they make specific mention that there was somebody directly associated with PWCC, which was the core issue as to why they went on, took down PWCC off the site, took down hundreds, if not thousands of listings, all sorts of consignments that PWCC had. And PWCC clapped back. They're an Oregon-based service. They're predominantly a consigner. They also have like a card vault that you can access. They did clap back. So in their own press release sent out, They said PWCC is considering all available legal options in response to eBay's defamatory press release and its bad faith action to restrict PWCC's privileges on eBay. PWCC has only just learned of these allegations, and eBay has refused to share any details supporting its allegations. Despite eBay's unwillingness to explain its claims, PWCC will continue to conduct its own internal review to ensure that its employees have not violated eBay's rules. So that's just a snippet of the PWCC piece. We can actually, I'll link this. I'll post a link on the TWT Facebook page if anyone wants to go through it. I'm sure a lot of listeners, a lot of people probably have already read through it. But there's a lot of speculation that PWCC has been planning on breaking off and starting its own individual site, its own auction house, its own consignment site and whatnot, which obviously would directly compete with eBay. So there's a ton of speculation in terms of, I guess, eBay's motives to come out with this now, because you got to think. So I've been buying and selling on eBay, not just sports cards, but buying and selling in general on eBay for probably close to 10 years, I would say. And this type of thing, shill bidding and just being skeptical of what certain items go for, has always been, there's not a single buyer on the planet, there's not a single serious eBay buyer that thought doesn't cross their head. So it is a little suspicious on eBay's part that, as PWCC is gearing up to sort of, exit that platform, start their own, like it's pretty known that PWCC is going to go, toe-to-toe with them. They're going to put their own auction house up. They're going to directly compete for market share with eBay. Could it be a little PR stunt? Could it be a little sort of save face tactic by eBay? Sure, it absolutely could. Does it mean it's not happening? Does it mean those allegations are not true? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I fully believe that there are people at PWCC and Probstein as well. There's plenty of top tier consigners that I'm sure this type of thing goes on. There was actually, take it for what you will, that there was even some messages and screenshots that were sent around about a high level executive of PWCC having a conversation with one of the PWCC members, asking them to bid up a certain item. I think it was like a Ted Williams card. Again, obviously the internet's a crazy place. Photoshop's a hell of a drug. Could obviously, came into play there. But it kind of brings the main idea of you never want to rely solely on consignor comps and consignor sale numbers when you're in the marketplace. If anything, this should be a lesson to buyers and sellers as a whole, because this happens. Anytime you have a massive online retailer or online marketplace like this, collusion and things of this nature are going to happen. I think this is a big lesson for a lot of people who use these sites, use these services, that you really have to do a lot of your own legwork in these situations. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are wondering, is this going to crash the hobby? Is this going to crash prices, tank this, blah, blah, blah? The answer is no. No. Because the thing of it is, we all knew this was happening. Everyone in the sports car world, we all knew this has been happening for years. We all knew it and kind of accepted it. At the National a couple of weeks ago, I literally witnessed people going through comps as they were working deals at tables. And they're going through comps, and guys were literally saying, no, that's a Probstein comp. No, we're not going to count that. I want, regular independent auction comps. Guys would go through Probstein, PWCC, and throw those comps out the window. This in-person deals, they're throwing those comps out the window when negotiating 4 or 5-figure cards. So it's yes, what PWCC did, should these allegations be proved true, which I'm not saying they're not, it's probably more likely than not that they are true, it's an egregious miscarry of business, for sure. But at the same time, is it going to totally implode the card market? Fucking no. No. We all knew that this was happening. We all knew that cards get shilled. Independent auctions get shilled. Cards get shilled every fucking day. Auctions get shilled every day. So everyone going crazy saying, that's it. There go all the comps. There go the market. And you see it on Twitter. You see it on Instagram comments and things like that, people talking. It's dude, you knew this was happening. Rewind 6 months ago. If you went to those same collectors, you're like, hey, you think stuff's getting shilled on eBay? They're going to be, of course they are. But now, because it came to light, because it's out in the open, and eBay made a big thing about it with the press release, and they're definitely probably trying to save a little bit of market share, maybe ding PWCC before they have that full exodus and start doing their own thing. Now it's like it's causing a big stir, which it is what it is. The bottom line is this. Right? If you're a collector, right? If you're in the sports collectibles market, whether it be cards, memorabilia, anything of that nature, never rely solely on comps on an online marketplace. Never rely solely. If you're solely relying on eBay comps or whatever auction house it may be, if you're relying solely on that and you're not looking at things like Pop Report, player marketability, you know what I mean, prospecting, you know, whoever it is that you're buying like that particular item of, if you're not doing your homework on the player, on the item, on the scarcity of the item, things beyond just the baseline price, dude, you're not a savvy buyer. And that's that. That's the bottom line. So while it is crazy, and I'm really, really curious to see how more of this information, I'm sure there's going to be more to this. I'm sure this isn't like a 1 week thing. I am really curious to see how more of this information shakes out, see how it all goes down, see if there's any legal action from PWCC. You know, it'd be really juicy if some more kind of minute details came out about it. But the bottom line is, I mean, if you're a collector of anything at all, you shouldn't be just looking at a recent sale price and that's the end-all be-all for the market value. There's other factors. You got to do your own homework. You got to do your own homework as well, and that goes for just about any aspect of any hobby. So it's going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting to see how that all shakes out. Now, staying with the hobby talk, there was another announcement that started breaking everywhere earlier today, involving the multi-billion-dollar corporation Fanatics, who are most known for autographed sports memorabilia. You know, one of the biggest sports memorabilia companies on the planet, valued at a whopping $18 billion valuation. According to the Wall Street Journal, they made a play early on, and the article was edited to reflect the update. But earlier on today, the Wall Street Journal reported that Fanatics brokered a deal with the MLB Players Association for exclusive licensing for MLB trading cards. Now, this was earlier on in the day. Darren Rovell even commented on it and wrote a little article on it over on Action. Let me see. So he does go on to say that the terms of the deal are unclear, but sources say that both the MLB Players Association will have an equity stake in the new company formed from scratch just to produce trading cards. Fanatics has hired StockX founder Josh Luber to run the business. So you have a lot of different pieces going on here. So I really think the equity stake there, giving the Players Association, giving the league an equity stake in some of the, some of the fruits of the licensing that they're giving out, I really think that's a major, major playing point, because now you look at the possible dollars that the league can bring in as an additional source of revenue, in addition to their own jersey sales, ticket sales, their own marketing, TV deals and whatnot. Especially baseball, which has been struggling, to really create some excitement in its game, put asses in the seat, and create revenue. For them, makes total sense. What was more surprising is a few hours ago it came out, Wall Street Journal actually edited the article to include that not only the MLB, but the NBA and the NFLPA both also came to terms with Fanatics. So as it stands, and this is very new information, so I'm sure there's going to be more that's coming out, but as it stands, Fanatics is holding exclusive licensing to produce the trading cards for the MLB, NBA, and NFL, effective what I believe was 2026. That's when the MLB deal was slated to start. Once it was edited, they didn't go into specifics in terms of the timeline for the NFL and NBA, but one would assume if the MLB was taking place in 2026, you can probably safely assume the NBA and NFL deals will be similar to that timeline. So I know we had a couple people reach out really quick, like that we were talking, posted a couple things online. Mitch, did we have anything come through?
On the Facebook feed?
On the ROS.
On the ROS? Oh, I haven't seen anything here, but Oh, I do see a couple questions actually. Now that you see it, is Fanatics going to change the landscape of distribution to this market?
So so all right, honestly, that's probably the biggest variable in this whole thing, right? So the distribution and how Fanatics would conduct business is probably the biggest question mark that collectors and people in the industry have, right? So obviously Fanatics is a giant sports empire, okay? They deal heavily in sports memorabilia, God. Deal heavily with like, exclusive player contracts for autographs and things like that. So I think the sort of production chain and of how to get the product produced and then to consumer, I think that's the biggest question here, So like, is Fanatics going to say open up stores countrywide, right? Where instead of going through distributors and distributing to LCSs and distributing where you now have to go through third parties to get your product, are they going to do, say, something like akin to an Apple store? There's just going to be Fanatic stores in every, strip mall and, mini mall or major mall, major retail outlet across the country where you can just go in and buy, 2027 Fanatics hoops, Fanatics, whatever their product names are. What's up, Mitch?
Do you think? So this has happened recently in like Magic the Gathering, specifically, where Wizards of the Coast is more shifting over to like a direct to consumer approach, where they're cutting out small card shops in favor of large wholesale distributors like Amazon. Is that something that you could see happening after this deal takes place?
I think that's 100%. That's probably a main. I mean, so put it this way, right? If you're Fanatics, if I'm the CEO of Fanatics, right, and I'm getting all these deals brokered, and again, it should be said that this is very new information, so we're assuming for right now, since this info just broke, that this will happen. We still obviously got to wait and see if how each domino falls and how this moves forward. But as of right now, let's assume that the reports are true. I mean, Roval's reporting on it. There's a lot of pretty reliable information highlighting that this could happen, right? So if I'm Fanatics, why would I want to make the same mistakes as Panini and Topps, dealing with distribution, dealing with the difficulty? Like, I can tell you right now, I break cards, right? I break cards in a couple different groups, and it is a nightmare to source product. It's a nightmare working with distributors to try and source product. You know what I mean? It's very tough to be able to acquire product in bulk and acquire what you need to get it to your customers, get it to your, whatever clients to break and whatnot. So if I'm Fanatics, right, and I'm putting that much money up, because to acquire all three of those exclusive licenses, obviously it's not cheap. You know what I mean? Obviously they are going to spend a lot of money, assuming these reports are true. If I'm doing that, they have to already have some sort of supply chain. What's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of supply chain solution, right? To go to direct to consumer. Direct to consumer has to be the play here. I mean, Fanatics, they already have a robust site. They already deal very heavily in the memorabilia and autograph world with all these professional athletes. So you have to think that if they're going to be mass producing trading cards, and putting out different products like right now, you have to believe that barring some sort of robust financial deal from like Southern Hobby Supply, GTS, these major trading card distributors, the third party distributors, barring them coming in and making a very big play and brokering some deal with Fanatics, I would assume Fanatics' number one goal would be direct to consumer. Now you're going to cut costs. You set your own margins. I mean, you look at it right now, the factory cost on certain products that go to these third-party distributors from Panini and Topps are a fraction of what they then get sold to your local card shops, to your local breakers, all this other stuff. And then those people, the card shops, breakers, online distributors, online retailers, they then need to jump the price up again because it's a business. They need to make their mark as well, keep the lights on, keep their bills paid. So if Fanatics brokers this deal and gets all three of these licenses, I feel like it has to be a top priority to do more direct to consumer. Like it just has to be. Like you look at some of the biggest issues, some of the biggest pain points in the hobby. over the last year and a half, when things really started to boom. I mean, it's been shill bidding, which we just talked about. It's been people flipping retail product, and people getting priced out of the market because of super high expensive product. Now, all those things could be solved, or at least the issue could be sort of dampened a little bit if the supply chain issue, if you start cutting out the middleman, you start cutting out, say, GTS, Southern Hobby, and like all these other guys, now you have more flexibility, assuming Fanatics has the logistics and assuming they have the infrastructure to do it, which I would assume they do. I mean, they're an $18 billion valuated company. I would assume a company with that big of a valuation that has the capital to put up and make these kind of plays, I would assume they have the ability to put their own storefronts up. I honestly imagine, like, literally Apple. Imagine Apple stores across the country, in different retail outlets, in different malls and whatnot. But instead of Apple, it's the Fanatics store. You know what I mean? Where now that's where you're gonna go to get all your trading cards, to get your hobby boxes, to get your retail SKU stuff. Like, I would imagine they have, the money, the marketing, and the potential investors to do something like that. Now, the question being posed by a lot of people is this good for the hobby? Is this bad for the hobby? And it's really there's a couple different questions. There's a couple different ways you can look at it, right? A lot of people kind of got all stirred up when Topps lost their license for basketball and for football. A lot of people were like, "Oh my God!" Like when Panini really started to get popular in the early 2000s and whatnot, there was a lot of similar chatter about people saying, "Oh, this is terrible for the hobby. This is gonna tank prices. This and that." And I mean, here we are a decade plus later, and I mean, you have a Honus Wagner T206 just sold for $6.6 million. You know what I mean? You have high-end cards going for 4, 5, 6 figures, modern cards. So I would venture to say this, I think it's too early to say if this is good or if this is bad, because you don't know what Fanatics is going to do. No one knows what the plan is, to sort of jump in and say, "Oh, that's it, the hobby's over, like this is going to tank everything." I think it's kind of like an irresponsible knee-jerk reaction, because these same things happened earlier on a couple decades ago, a decade plus ago. And a lot of the people who are in the hobby now didn't give a fuck about trading cards at that point. So it's like, it's one of those things where we really have to wait for more information, but you can't really say if it's going to be good or bad because we don't know what the plan is. You know what I mean? Who knows? They could buy out all the brand names. Maybe Fanatics buys out the National Treasures and Flawless names and stuff. Maybe they disseminate where they have certain lines and certain brands that are more mass-produced, that have retail SKUs, that are more accessible, that are still popular, but more accessible to the everyday collectors. People who whine and complain and say, "Oh, my kid wants to get into it, but everything's so expensive." Maybe there's a brand specifically for that, kind of like what Panini does. And then they do even shorter printed brands for the higher end and, bigger buyer and whatnot. And they kind of split it up. We don't know. But regardless, and I mean, the thing is too, Fanatics is already in the game. They have Fanatics exclusive products that have cracked ice. Like they did it for, I think, Prism basketball, and definitely some football product. Like they already have Fanatics, exclusive product that they partnered with Panini and Topps on. So it's like they're already in the game to an extent. Their name is already on some products. So to think that they're gonna try to totally overhaul the market and totally overhaul the way that the market's been doing business is kind of silly. It's a little silly. I mean, the amount of money that they're going to be putting up for these deals, should everything go through, is going to be a lot. So you have to think that they're doing their due diligence to see what works in the market, what are the best business practices, what are the pain points for collectors that we want to avoid and not make the same mistakes on. I would imagine a company as big as them, should all this come to fruition, they're going to take those steps. They're going to take those steps to make sure that the business thrives. Are there any parallels that you're seeing here, Mitch? I know you're bigger on the Magic the Gathering stuff and them kind of pivoting away from smaller distribution. Any parallels that you can see here that you can touch on?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is kind of already happening in those realms. Like, I mean, there's a lot of popularity gaining in like online distribution. So
Right.
there's a couple. There's a couple sites like this, but a notable one is called Team Covenant, and what they do is they take, they buy product directly from the producer or the
So that'd be
manufacturer.
WTC Wizards of the Coast, right?
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast or Legend Story Studios. They sometimes buy it directly from the Pokemon Company. And then they just they have like subscription services where you order boxes through them, and that's how people get most of their cards. And then there's wholesale Amazon distribution through or for Magic the Gathering now going on, and it's it's kind of devastating to local game stores, but at the same time, they're kind of adapting a bit, learning how to sell product, learning how to break things, and it's a little bit different because that stuff is playable. Where collection card games or collection card hobbies like this aren't, you're not getting a product to play it. It's more to display or grade or value it. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different in that regard, but I think it's kind of weird territory right now as far as those distribution methods go, and people are still getting used to it a bit. And if anything, I would say it's kind of helped out the accessibility to those games, because there's a lot of areas that just don't have a local game store, and they don't have the ability to buy this pack of whatever that just released. And so that's a good thing, but then you get highly settled areas where they do have some card shops, and those card shops are now struggling to stay afloat, because they just can't get distribution lines because their distributor packed up after Amazon took over, or a similar story like that.
Yeah. So I can see. I'm going to kick it over to Jeff Boizo in the chat. Actually said Fanatics has to be setting up to buy Panini and Topps. The only way this works. That has to be an option too. I would imagine that if they're going to make a play for this kind of licensing, not impossible that Fanatics now just becomes the umbrella company, because they have the money. Topps has been rumored to be bought. And this is the same with Upper Deck after they lost the licensing, where Topps is sort of heavily relying on baseball product as their primary revenue driver, and also soccer. I mean, they have soccer licenses too with FIFA and UEFA. But I would imagine that, like Jeff said, Fanatics has to be thinking about making a play to acquire Topps and Panini outright as well.
It's not a bad move, honestly, to consolidate, especially if you're trying to go direct to consumer, like you're assuming they will. I mean, that's just it's a way to streamline the business, right?
Right. Especially given the fact that they have the infrastructure to put those brick and mortar stores. Who I think the biggest loser out of this, and I mean loser in the kindest possible way, but I think the biggest part of this that this affects is local card shops. Brick and mortar shops. This does not seem. This would be a bit unsettling if you're a brick and mortar shop owner. This is a little unsettling, specifically because to have one large entity like Fanatics come in, who clearly, the amount of money that they're going to put up for this, they're going to need to see some ROI. And the easiest way to do that is to cut out middlemen, to make their full margins on all the products that they make or that they oversee producing. And the easiest way to do that is direct to consumer. Now, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And again, it's really early. It's really early on in this. This is all like very new to the entire collecting community. So, we'll see how it shakes out, but it's going to be really, really interesting to see what kind of information comes out in the next few days. I don't know. Jeff says in the chat, value of Panini and Topps has to be 90% less if these transfer. Yeah, I would agree. That's the other thing is, if Fanatics has the exclusives to the license, I mean, you see it all the time with products like not to bash like Leaf products or anything, but like you take Leaf or like Panini Baseball, the non-licensed product where they cannot put logos of teams or anything like that on the cards. Collectors, not all collectors, but a lot of collectors shy away from that stuff because it's not licensed. They don't want the unlicensed product. So if Fanatics takes all of that I mean, Topps and Panini are almost behooved to sort of like, if you can't beat them, join them type of deal, because they can keep producing their cards, but they're not gonna be able to put any logos on it. They're not gonna be able to put any team names on it. They're not gonna get like as good a patch. Like that's one of the things. Like imagine the patches and imagine the all the on card autographs, and maybe Fanatics does no redemptions whatsoever because they already have these relationships with specific players and agents and stuff from the years of doing autograph memorabilia and acquiring game used memorabilia. There's a lot of bullets in Fanatics chamber. I'll tell you that. Like Fanatics has a lot of ammo at its disposal in terms of how they can pivot throughout the marketplace and things that they can bring to the table that Panini and Topps cannot. So Jeff, I would agree with you in the chat, Jeff. The valuation of Topps and Panini as a whole takes a massive hit should these deals go through. And again, all this information just broke today. I'm sure Topps and Panini were well aware that this was a possibility before all this news broke. I'm sure there's people that are communicating to them from the Players Association saying like, hey guys, we potentially have a new suitor, another person in the market. We're going to need to discuss our deal thing. I'm sure some of those discussions have happened and Topps and Panini are aware of it. It's going to be very curious to see how they react and what their reactions are to this news. And yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. So it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting regardless. I don't think this is bad for the market though. I think looking at it from a collector, I mean, it's something new. When Panini came on the scene and they really kind of made a name for themselves in acquiring those licenses in the early to mid 2000s. I mean, you had a lot of really, really cool products. I mean, they upped the brand value of things like National. I mean, you basically lost Exquisite from Upper Deck, and then you gained stuff like Flawless, National Treasures, Impeccable, all these different products that were developed that are really fucking cool products and are marquee lines, So who's to say Fanatics doesn't come out with the next big, super high-end product or whatever? And who's to say that, some of these products now don't see an increase in value because you're never going to see, let's say in a few years you have the last ever run of National Treasures from Panini before Fanatics takes over and that becomes no more. You know what I mean? We saw with Exquisite stuff from Upper Deck, that stuff flew. I mean, granted, the print run was a lot shorter, but that was their elite flagship product, and all those prices jumped up. You can't get it anymore. So supply and demand. So it'll be really interesting. I do like what Jeff was saying in the chat, though, as far as him talking about the valuations and whatnot for Panini and Topps. But we'll definitely keep everyone posted on that end. It's gonna be interesting. Couple weeks, couple months to see how a lot of this stuff shakes out.
He just commented again.
Boom. So that's a huge plus side. Someone like Fanatics isn't going to spend a huge amount of money if they didn't feel comfortable. That's what I'm saying is like, if you're Fanatics, if you're upper management and the CEOs and all the decision makers at Fanatics, you're not making a. So I'm gonna quickly pivot too as to why this is good for the market, because you're not gonna spend that much money if you're Fanatics. If you're a multi-billion-dollar organization, you don't just say, let's fuck around and acquire exclusive licenses from all these players associations, which are gonna run them millions of dollars. Millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. If you are a business of that magnitude and you make a business decision to acquire, in this case it's licenses, but in anything, across any business, you make that type of play to acquire millions and millions of dollars of inventory, of exclusivity, of whatever the case may be. That means you see things in that market that you're getting into that you believe can grow more. You know what I mean? Like, Fanatics is not run by a bunch of boneheads, clearly, with their $18 billion valuation. So, if anything, it shows extreme bullish mentality in the market. It means that they know this market will continue to grow. They probably see it. Like we've talked about in various card groups and like we've talked about on this podcast before, they probably see the level of expansion overseas in the European markets, in the Asian markets, in the Middle Eastern and African markets even. Like, I'm sure they see the worldwide appeal of collectibles, of even NFTs and things of that nature. I'm certain that they see the value in that, and that's why they're making a play like this, because they see there is legs in the hobby. You know what I mean? So a lot of the naysayers that say, oh, like, you know, it was just down. Like when we saw the dip a couple of months ago in the hobby and whatnot, they're saying, oh, that's it. It's all over. Bubbles bursting, blah, blah, blah. If anything, just the fact that this news broke, that Fanatics is trying to get the exclusivity on all these leagues from the Players Association, should be a telltale sign that there is strong bullish belief that we have not hit the peak of where the hobby can be as a whole. And that, for you, for me, for all the collectors that are holding, that love the hobby, that love to buy and sell, that, you know, are curious, that's a good thing. It's a good thing. So we'll leave it at that in terms of the hobby talk. So obviously we'll definitely keep everybody posted on that. I'm sure there'll be something that we can call back to for sure. Gonna dive into a little bit of little NFL season preview. So we had the Pats and Eagles kickoff tonight, which was a nice little preseason game number 2. Got to watch a little bit before we went live. I want to do just a quick little overview here of some guys that we're watching as we head into the NFL season. Obviously, you know, we're about the midway point of the preseason, and a lot of people are very excited to see football back. I know I'm very excited to block off all my Sundays and sit my ass on the couch with some pizza and wings. But yeah, Pats Eagles. We'll do a quick little guy. We'll do a quick little dive on just like some information on the Pats and whatnot. So I don't know for anyone who was watching some of the preseason game earlier. I know, we got a lot of local fans here.
They've scored twice since we've been on. They've gotten 2 touchdowns since we've been live.
Mac Jones throw? I'm trying to pull up the box score. I'll say that we'll start with this. We'll start with Cam Newton, who looked fucking good. I mean, again, it's preseason, it's week 2 and whatnot. But just watching how guys look in terms of, you know, how comfortable they are in the field, their fluidity, how they look athletically and in shape. I'll tell you what, Cam Newton's line before he came out of the game, 8 for 9 for 100 yards, threw a touchdown. And if you watch like the first few drives that he was on, you know, he had a really good throw to Jacoby Myers. He had some zip on the ball. He was stepping up in the pocket really well. Guy looked good. You know, say what you want. Say what you want about the man. Say what you want about him checking it down and underthrowing receivers. Look good this game. You know, it was very encouraging. He looked good. Damian Harris had a couple nice runs. See, Sony Michel's got 7 for 34 right now. And you know, speaking of Damian Harris, the guy is absolutely jacked out of his mind right now. Absolutely jacked. Looks incredible. So really excited about that. I mean, if you're a Pats fan, it was an encouraging game to watch. You know, 19-0 at halftime right now. One thing I was really hoping to see was Jalen Hurts. I mean, Hurts, there was a lot of talk about him, throughout the course of the week. They had the joint practices and whatnot. I was really looking forward to seeing him a little bit because he's one of the guys that we're going to talk about in a little bit in terms of players that I'm watching, tightly watching this season. But I started Joe Flacco, so nothing really to write home there. Miles Sanders looked pretty good. Miles Sanders had a couple of nice looking runs. He had a nice little 10-yarder and whatnot. But Pat's defense, man, obviously the offense is still, you know, the jury's out, but the defense looks good, man. Dude, there's a lot of guys. You know, having Van Noy back, who, maybe not the most athletic linebacker out there, but he knows the system. He knows how to call the plays. He knows how to, you know, adequately kind of move the pieces around within the Patriots system. And he's a versatile linebacker. You know, he's a versatile linebacker. So I'm very excited to see what that defense can do. I think they had, was it Uchi that forced the fumble earlier on? Where was it?
Danny O'Connell says Mac Jones just threw a Hail Mary. It was an absolute dime, and Harry dropped it.
Oh, geez, Louise. So Harry's another guy who it looked like he was poised to get traded at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the preseason, because he and his agent actually requested a trade out of New England. I missed that one. I mean, we were probably live, obviously, but Mac, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna see if I can actually find a stream and catch the second half after the show, because I am curious about Mac Jones too. It would be, I mean, in a perfect world, Cam is serviceable enough where, you know, if he looks like he did, you know, in the first few drives and he kind of has a full year under the offense, I mean, I don't hate letting him stay under center. I mean, he looked decent. He looked decent on the first few drives. But I do want to see what Mac has. I do want to see, at Bama, he was much more of a, calm pocket passer. And I mean, I know you're at Alabama. You have one of the best offensive lines in the country. You had a plethora of weapons. Devontae Smith going absolutely wild. But it's exciting. I'm starting to warm up to this Pats team for sure. I'm definitely starting to warm up to them. I know we have a lot of Pats fans, like local Pats fans that follow the page and whatnot. So feel free to drop any questions or any comments about the Pats over in the chat and whatnot. Always happy to discuss some of the local sports. But I guess I'm not disappointed. Not disappointed. I think is a lot of young guys on the team. It's been kind of that changing of the guard. Obviously, starting with Brady left, now Jules is gone. Where a lot of younger guys are getting more run and whatnot. It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be fun to watch. They're not looking bad so far, and the defense is sneaky, man. That's gonna be a sneaky defense to watch this year. Which, if we've learned anything over the last 2 decades plus of watching New England Patriot football since 2000, it's that defenses can carry us. You look at that first Super Bowl against the Rams. That defense was absolutely phenomenal. We've had electric defenses throughout the course of, the 2-decade-plus dynasty. So if this defense can be serviceable, if they can create turnovers, keep other teams under 24, under 20 points a game, I'm not completely out on a Cam Newton or Mac Jones led offense just needing to hit a 20-point mark to get a W. I'm not completely out on that idea. That's 3 touctouchdowns. I'm not totally out on that.
I read a stat on Cam. I believe he's 6 of 8 with 150 yards today. 151 passer rating. It's at 8 of 9.
Yeah, 8 of 9 for 103
yards and a touchdown.
I got the box score.
I know. I verified. I looked at a tweet quick and was trying to relay you some info on him. Okay. I know you were talking about him earlier.
Okay. That's good. Producer Mitch in the booth running those numbers.
Did a quick glance while I'm hitting my buttons back here.
Yeah, so. I know. I like that. One thing I did want to do, though, is had a quick little short list, 4-player short list of players that I personally am very excited to watch. And I tried to pick and choose, obviously everyone's excited to watch Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville, see what that. So I tried to pick and choose some more unique options, guys who maybe are slept on a little more, and that we can apply to. You can apply this to fantasy, you can apply this to the hobby, and just as players in general. There's a handful of guys that I'm looking at predominantly. It's 3 quarterbacks and 1 skill position players. The first guy on the list, and I know he's on a decent amount of people's radar right now, is Kyler Murray. I love his game, man. I love his game. His athleticism and his ability in the pocket is significantly better than people give him credit for. So the Cardinals made a big point this year to try and improve their offensive line. They went out, they acquired Pro Bowler Rodney Hudson from Oakland. So I know Rodney, he's 32 years old, and he's a little bit, he's aging. He's on the back end of his career, but he's a Pro Bowl center. He's by far and away what they had last year. So they obviously go out, they have a full season with DeAndre Hopkins, a full off season with him to try and get in a groove with Kyler. I think Arizona they're doing the right things to try and set Kyler up for success. They really are. You can see that they're really trying to push themselves forward and make themselves a contender in the NFC West, which is not the easiest division by far. But the other thing is, if you watch some of Kyler Murray last year and even in his rookie year, he's got excellent pocket presence, and he's got excellent agility once he breaks containment. Once he breaks containment, he gets out of the pocket, whether it's on a bootleg or it's a broken play. He really does have excellent footwork and excellent athletic ability to maneuver around and pick up yards on the ground. Kind of akin to a Russell Wilson-esque, kind of like he can kind of be in that tier. And I really think due to the fact that he plays on the West Coast, they're kind of the non-sexy team in the NFC West because you have everyone's on LA out there and Seattle. So they're not exactly, the number one watch in that division. But he's a guy who, I look at, and I do really think that he's undervalued in the hobby. I think he's undervalued as a quarterback, and he's a guy that I'm watching. He's a guy that I'm very curious to watch. I really want to see him develop that chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, top 5, top 3 receiver in the entire league. So that alone is going to help, stretch that defense out a little bit, stretch that coverage out for him, give him some more options over the middle, open up some more single coverage underneath for some tight ends, for some check downs and whatnot. He's a guy I'm watching. And just as a little note, you can find his silver Prism rookie cards, PSA 10s, both cheaper. Oh, Jesus. Both cheaper than the likes of Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. He's still affordable in terms of hobby for you guys who are collectors out there. He is still definitely affordable in terms of the hobby. So he's number one. Number two, and we made a quick little mention of him on the previous segment, is Jalen Hurts. Now, obviously, there's sort of two schools of thoughts on Hurts. A lot of people aren't sold on him. Some people are sold on him. The reason I'm very interested in Hurts is this is more of a hobby perspective take than it is from a overall perspective take. But overall, you look at what Hurts was as a collegiate player, being at Alabama, being at Oklahoma, and he was a winner at both. He's a very, very good college quarterback and a Heisman finalist at two premier schools. So that alone, it shows that he can work in different systems, and it shows that he has the ability to succeed where he goes. So that alone, pedigree-wise, you have to give him a check mark there. Obviously, not every college quarterback translates to the NFL. We're not going to dive into that right now. But the main reason that I'm very interested in Jalen Hurts from a hobby's perspective is because for me personally, when I'm investing in guys, when I'm trying to buy guys, I look specifically at what players have room to make a jump. Where are their gaps? Where are there undervalued players that have the upside to jump up quickly and close the gap on other players of that position or of of similarity to close the gap price-wise? So what I did a little bit of price checking here, right? Just on some of the marquee rookie cards for Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow. Herbert and Burrow, obviously 1A, 1B. Herbert, probably that 1A in terms of collectability from the 2020 quarterback draft class. But Jalen Hurts, right? His silver PSA 10 Prism, the last 48 hours, you can get it between $850 and $900, right? That's a PSA 10 silver. For Burrow, that PSA 10 silver, $2,500 plus. For Herbert, $2,800 plus. So you're literally looking at Burrow and Herbert being 3 to 4x times more expensive than what Hurts is. And Hurts is playing in a division where there's a lot of leaky defenses, a lot of leaky secondaries. He's almost certainly, he is going to be the starter. They have some weapons there. So I just look at it as, he's a guy who has a pedigree of winning. He's a guy who clearly has skills to play the quarterback position. He's in a bigger market. Philadelphia is a good football market. It's not like he's playing, no offense to Trevor Lawrence, it's not like he's playing down in Jacksonville. He's in a predominantly big market, playing on the East Coast. He's going to get some primetime looks. And price-wise, there is a lot of room. He's not even at $1,000 for a single PSA 10 silver. So that to me is it's interesting. Am I saying I'm going out and scooping up all the Jalen Hurts PSA 10 silvers online? Absolutely not. But what I am saying is there's a big gap there. There's a big gap. To have a card sitting at $850 and having one of your one of your fellow colleagues in the league from that draft class be at $2,500 for the same exact card graded the same. There's room. Let's say he comes out, throws 3 touchdowns week 1, it's a $1,200 card. I'm sorry, it's gonna be. The way football is with how reactive that market is, there's room there. That's all I'm saying. There's room there, especially if you go through the first 3 or 4 weeks, if he's outperforming, not that I'm saying it's gonna happen, but if he's outperforming Burrow or Herbert, his prices go up. You know what I mean? It's not that crazy to think he could come out the gate hot and see a little surge in pricing. I haven't looked at the Eagles' schedule, so that's another thing is, if he comes out and he's playing, the Lions in one of the first 4 weeks, or he's playing some leaky defenses in one of the first 4 or 5 weeks where he can kind of inflate those stats and you can almost get like a little artificial price rise. Kind of ironic considering we were talking about shill bidding earlier on. That's something that's it's of interest, And the other thing, his contenders on card autograph, cracked ice to 22, $1,900. Joe Burrow, $4,600. Justin Herbert, $5,600. It's huge fucking gaps, man. Huge gaps in terms of pricing. So I just think that's really interesting. in terms of, he has an opportunity to kind of close that up. Another guy, Justin Fields. Justin Fields. So I picked Fields over Lawrence only because, kind of just to be a little contrarian here, specifically because Lawrence, everyone's going to be all over Lawrence. He's going to be under a microscope given how successful he was over at Clemson. But there's something about Fields. He looks more and more like he's going to win the starting job in Chicago. Okay, Chicago, obviously a very, very raucous football city. Very, very good place to play football. And they've been dying for a franchise quarterback forever. I mean, between Trubisky just not panning out and just going through tons and tons of starters, they are dying for a franchise quarterback. So the collectability there, the fact that he should win the starting job, the fact that he's going to face the Detroit Lions twice a year in the NFC North, those are intriguing things for Justin Fields. And another, they are a lower ranked defense. That defense is not exactly, a stout Iron Curtain type defense. So got to believe that they'll be behind in a decent amount of games. They're going to let him air it out. They're going to give him a lot of leash. In his rookie year, they're going to give him a lot of leash. Let him sling the ball. So it wouldn't be surprising to see him jump out and, midway point in the season, he's got the most passing yards of all the QBs in this rookie class. That wouldn't be that big of a surprise to me, to be perfectly honest, especially if he, hangs 380 or 400 on the Lions when he plays them. Fourth guy I'm looking at here is A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, wide receiver in Tennessee. And this is almost exclusively due to Julio Jones now being there. So I think two big things happen here with A.J. Having Julio now. Number one, he's going to be picking his brain. A.J. Brown's been one of the hardest workers. His teammates in Tennessee, speak extremely, extremely highly of him. But also you have to believe he's going to be picking Julio's brain. Julio Jones has been an elite receiver, top 5 receiver in the league for, since he got drafted. So he's going to be learning under his tutelage. And to have them both lined up wide, Julio Jones can still cook you deep. So to think that teams are not going to, try and double Julio at some points and try and, mix up coverages where it could create some matchup problems where it allows A.J. Brown to get in some more, single high coverage. Maybe he gets matched up on a linebacker and some broken coverage or whatnot. I think it opens up a lot more opportunity for him to showcase his skill. That being said, I love Julio Jones this year. If you're drafting for fantasy this year, I fucking love Julio Jones because the majority of the time you're probably going to see A.J. Brown in double coverage, I would imagine. And Julio in single coverage down the field is a fucking problem. That is a problem for defenses. So I really like A.J. Brown specifically. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's a great worker. He's got a lot of skill. He's been one of the most successful young receivers the past 2 years. He's also out of that 2019 rookie class with Kyler Murray and DK Metcalf. So plenty of room for him to grow as well. And I think Julio being there just really, really kind of ups his intrigue. So those are the 4 guys that I'm really looking at in terms of players to watch in the NFL. So yeah, keep an eye out. It's gonna be a great season, man. I'm so excited. I got my fantasy draft on Sunday. Very excited for that. We got our nice Pick'em League in one of the Facebook groups that we add in one of the card Facebook groups. So definitely excited about that.
Who are you running fantasy with this year?
So we have a big keeper league on Sleeper. It's like the big dynasty league.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yep.
a ton of keepers in that one, which should be pretty fun. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I think I kept Burrow. I got my boy Kamara, who I PC. T. Higgins, Mari Cooper. I think I kept Hunter Henry, who I put in the keepers as soon as he ended up going out for the Pats. So he should be back though. That injury I don't think was anything big. But Mitch, what do you think? I think a little time for some buy or sell. A little buy or sell action.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Take us into the home stretch of the pod here.
Absolutely. Let's see what we got first here. Let's kick it over to buy or sell. And here we go. Kevin Durant and Draymond Green blamed the head coach Steve Kerr and the Warriors management for mishandling their argument, which played a part in Durant splitting from the team.
Sell that shit. Sell that shit. I read some tweets about this earlier on. So Durant and Draymond did a little sit down with, I forget if it was Bleacher. I think it was Bleacher Report, honestly. And they talked about how when they had this fight, when Draymond addressed, why are you leaving, blah, 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 and they had this argument, they flipped it and basically said Steve Kerr and the management at the Warriors basically were a big reason why it spiraled out of control and why Durant ended up leaving. They used them as a scapegoat. Get the fuck out of here. There is no way you're going to sell to me when Kevin Durant was already talking to other teams, when he was already thinking about leaving the Warriors, which is why Draymond approached him in the first place. Like, dial it back. Dial it back to why the fight started. The whole beef between Draymond and Kevin Durant started because Draymond addressed the issue with Kevin Durant about him leaving the Warriors, about the possibility of him leaving and why it was happening and all this. And that, like, how is that on Steve Kerr and the GM? How is that on Steve Kerr? Like, Steve Kerr just led that team to multiple championships. And because Draymond asks one of the players who they brought in to help win one of those championships why he was thinking about leaving, and it spiraled out of control because Draymond's a hothead. I like Draymond Green, but Draymond's can be a hothead on the course, and Kevin Durant's just a fucking diva. Like, how the fuck are you gonna go point the finger at Steve Kerr and the GM? Sell that shit, sell it to the moon, and don't ever come at me with that nonsense. That's a load of garbage, in my opinion. A load of garbage. Now, obviously, you look at it from the player's side, maybe some things happened where, it could have been diffused a little bit, but to say that Steve Kerr and the GM, I think the quote from the tweet was that y'all about to fuck this up in regards to Steve Kerr and Warriors management. How are they about to fuck that up? How are they about to be the catalyst for Kevin Durant leaving? Like, Draymond approached Kevin about leaving because there were rumors and speculation flying that he would leave at the end of the season already. So how is that on Kerr and the GM? Like, that I'm selling that shit, man. Absolutely selling that. Get that garbage out of here.
I didn't know you're so passionate about that one. That's crazy.
Dude, I can't stand that. Like, get that shit out of here, man. That is wild. And if I'm Steve Kerr, I'm fucking pissed. I am pissed. And I'm probably bringing it up to Draymond, honestly. Unless there was some crazy shit that went down behind closed doors. Dude, come on, man. And at which point you can't really pin the blame on them because you're pinning it on them out of context, without the full context of the situation. Dude, I'm sorry. I'm selling that. I'm selling that.
Well, let's see. With all these recent soccer rumors surrounding different transfers, do you think Kylian Mbappe lands in Real Madrid?
I will buy that. I'll absolutely buy that. So he's been linked to Madrid a ton recently, as it is. And then you look at the fact that he turned down multiple contract extensions with PSG, and the fact that they just brought in Leo Messi, so it would make sense that now you got Lionel Messi, you got Kylian Mbappe, and you got Neymar all on your roster up top. You don't really need all three, and that's an assload of money in wages. So I'm buying that. There were already reports that came out today that said that they had come to a loose deal, so I'm buying that.
Yeah, that's a solid one for me as well. I think I'm going to buy that too. I know my expert opinion is valued on this segment.
on this realm.
Shohei Ohtani, is he an all-time great baseball player?
Yeah, I'm going to say he is already. Just on this season alone, I think we're going to look back on the 2021 MLB season. The story is going to be Ohtani. He's already etched in forever just on the season. Guy hit 40. He hit his 40th home run and has an ERA under 3 on the mound. Like, that's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that he's hitting with plus power from the plate and has an ERA under 3 as a starting pitcher. The guy's striking guys out and belting home runs on a bi-nightly basis. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm saying for this season alone, I think he's already an all-timer. And if he stays healthy and he can do this for multiple years, he's got to go down as one of the greatest baseball players to ever live. He has to be.
All right, moving on. Do you think Trevor Lawrence puts up the best stats of the rookie class this year?
I will. I'll sell it, even though he very well may, because he's the only one who's guaranteed. Like, I think he's the only one who's guaranteed, barring injury, to start every single game of the rookie class. I don't think Trey Lance is going to be in that mix. I think Fields, as we discussed earlier, would be in the mix for that, given the division that he plays in. Not that Lawrence plays in a super robust division in the AFC South, but there are some quality teams there too. I'll sell it just to do the contrarian play, and so that way we can come back to this and say that I sold it.
And the last one, that T206 Honus Wagner gets sold for $6.6 million. What's your take on that? What's the valuation there?
Okay, so I mean, obviously that is an absurd number, and I did not buy it, so I can't buy the take. But
I couldn't buy that if I tried.
Yeah, no shit. Neither of us have $6 million lying around to spend on a 3x2 piece of cardboard slabbed by SGC. Like that's bananas. Okay, so I'm going to buy the transaction specifically because this particular card, the T206, there's so few in existence, and because Honus Wagner was such an icon in terms of he was one of the first guys to really start marketing himself to tobacco companies. I think coffee was another one. He was sort of the first groundbreaking player to take his personal brand and put it out there and sort of turn that into dollars. You know what I mean? So I think the historical value, the fact that Wagner has like this sort of, historical essence and value to him as a personal brand, I think is important. And the fact that there's so few in existence, and it's a grail. It is the grail of baseball cards. So I'll buy it because I think historically it's more than a sports card. It is truly a historical piece of memorabilia. So I will buy that to take us into the home stretch and wrap up this episode. I know we're at 9:33, and we want to take it home. Nice episode, Mitch. Nice episode.
Yeah, there it is. I'm gonna kick it to the 2-minute drill just to.
Oh, I completely forgot about the 2-minute drill.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much going on in the chat, but if anyone wants to drop a question or two in there before we fully wrap up, this is just a quick rapid-fire one. Joel Embiid negotiating his own Supermax contract without an agent for the 76ers. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. He got a Supermax deal, didn't he? I love that.
He got a Supermax deal, is right. Who's the Rookie of the Year for the NFL?
It's going to be Trevor Lawrence.
T-Law.
It's going to be T-Law.
Alrighty, and sports card product series that you're looking most forward to?
Whatever the next high-end soccer product is, whether they come out with another National Treasures, Flawless, whatever that is. That's
no Fanatics high value.
I know. I mean, maybe now's a good time to say how into whatever the first high-end Fanatics line is. We'll leave it on that. Oh man. Well, thank you guys. Good. Thank you guys for hopping in, for enjoying the show today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to shoot us a message with any questions or comments about the episode. You can catch us every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. breaking down everything in the world of sports, collectibles, on Two-Way Takes. Again, big ups. Thanks, producer Mitch. Great show tonight. Thanks for Rob, who was spectating in the corner tonight. Very much enjoying. He's giving.
Let me get him on.
He's giving himself. He's giving himself his own ovation for just hanging out in the corner today. So, that's
in, Rob.
It's assistant producer Rob.
Here, there it is. Come on in. Wave high there. Yeah, there you go.
Assistant producer Rob in the corner. You love to see it.
It's good. He was feeding me some stat lines, so it was nice.
Oh, man. But, all right, guys. That is going to be it for episode 7. Hope you guys enjoyed. Very glad for all the support, as always. And we'll see you guys next Thursday on Two-Way Takes.